So next up we have Ned, which you've already started talking, so might as well continue, right? And remember, yeah. Shh. Okay, we're getting started. Everybody wants to hear what Ned has to say, right? Thank you. Okay, remember, be nice. Yes. Okay, well, we don't have a microphone, so we have the microphones right here.
Use your outside voice.
I'm usually pretty loud.
He's loud.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of mics here. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right.
You can't participate, don't yell. Here we go.
Okay. So my name is Ned Lever. I'm the city engineer for the city of Bremerton. I've worked for Bremerton for 30 years. I started out as a young engineer when I was 27. I was their development engineer. I've done capital utilities projects. I was a project engineer. I've been a project manager. I was the managing engineer for utilities for water and wastewater for Bremerton. And now for the last 6 years, I've been the city engineer. So most of my career, can't hear me? Louder. Wow. Okay. All right, I'm going to feel like I'm yelling at you, but so that's my background. Like I've worked in on a lot of capital utilities projects, wastewater treatment plants, water treatment plants, wastewater lift stations, outfalls. We have a gravity arch dam. I worked on our surface water supply. So I have a broad water and wastewater utility capital delivery experience. And then I've also been involved in the planning for water and wastewater for the city of Bremerton. When you plan for water and wastewater, you do what's called a comprehensive plan. So for water, it's our water system plan. I've been involved in like 4 of those, I think, where you plan your capital improvements for 20-year growth. You plan your capital improvements for the growth you anticipate, and then you also come up with the projects, and then you figure out what the funding requirement is going to be for those projects. I've done the same thing for multiple wastewater comprehensive plans for Bremerton, and we're doing the same thing right now. We're in the middle of a comprehensive plan update, and part of that comprehensive plan update is trying to plan how we're going to provide sewer service to the Puget Sound Industrial Center, which is the 3,600 acres that were annexed in 2012 by the city of Bremerton around the Bremerton airport. Now that area is what's called a MIC. And it's a manufacturing and industrial center. And there's like 8 of them in the whole state of Washington. And what that does, it's designated by the Puget Sound Regional Council, which is the regional planning organization for Puget Sound. Okay, Puget Sound Regional Council, PSRC. So when they designate an area as a MIC, it's for growth. It's for economic growth. It's so that you can bring in industry, you can bring in business, you know, you're on a commercial corridor, you've got transportation. Ideally, you've got water and sewer. Well, this MIC doesn't have a lot of water and sewer that's already developed. And it's going to be hard to develop. It's the biggest challenge for the Puget Sound Industrial Center, honestly. So we annexed the area in 2012. And honestly, when it comes to sewer and the Puget Sound Industrial Center, the only sewer infrastructure there is what the Port of Bremerton has. And they have a small collection system for the Olympic View Industrial Park, and they have a lagoon, large on-site septic system. It has a capacity of basically what the Belfair plant is using, right? It's like 70 to 90,000 gallons a day. Two-thirds of their capacity is used up. And at some point, they're going to run out of capacity, and they're going to have to come up with another way to provide sewer treatment for the Port of Bremerton and the industrial park. We are part of that because that area around the Port of Bremerton is City of Bremerton city limits. That makes it our sewer service area. That means I have to plan to try to figure out how to serve that area for growth with a sewer system. That's our job as a city and as a utility provider, to figure out how we're going to serve that area, right? It has seemed impossible. Like, the Port of Bremerton owns the sewer. I don't own the sewer. I can't tell people they can connect to that sewer. We don't have infrastructure that anybody can connect to there. We also don't have any infrastructure in the South Puget Sound Industrial Center area, which is the area that we're talking about possibly being served by Mason County, right? So I went around and I handed out 2 pieces of paper. This one might be a little misleading, but this is one of the original exhibits in 2017 when Mason County came to the city of Bremerton requesting to serve the port of Bremerton with sewer. Like the first conversation Bremerton ever had about sewer service and Mason County was initiated by Mason County coming to Bremerton saying, hey, we'd like to serve the port of Bremerton. And it was a necessity that they did that. And I think we all know why. That system was overbuilt. Like I've heard it, right? It was overbuilt. It's not a secret. You can read the newspaper articles from when it was designed and constructed. It was overbuilt for the amount of sewer service that it was going to provide, the service area. Like if you build a 100-unit apartment complex, you don't only want to rent 10 of them out, right? You want to rent 100 of them out. And so the problem is the original math and the original planning, it was overplanned. And then the service area, because of the cost of that infrastructure, I think they had to dial back the collection system, and I could be wrong about this, so if anybody from Mason County can correct me if they like. But so the service area is small, right? It's not, it's inadequate to provide the financial support for the operations and capital need for the infrastructure that's there. And I don't know another way to say that. Like it was, so if you want to solve that problem, and I will also say not just financially, but also for flow. So the treatment system in the Belfair, am I loud enough? Am I getting louder? The treatment plant for the Belfair Sewer system is what's called a membrane bioreactor, an MBR facility. And treatment plants need a certain amount of flow for them to operate properly. One of the problems that plant experienced, I think for years, is not having enough flow. When you don't have enough flow as an operator, you are struggling to meet your permit requirements for that plant. It just doesn't work the way it's supposed to, right? So it's like putting diesel in an unleaded car, maybe. I don't know, that's a bad analogy. So anyway, I think that drove the decision for Mason County initially in 2017 to come talk to Bremerton about being able to get some flow from the port of Bremerton so that, the plant would operate better. And I think there was a financial, benefit to selling sewer service for that system. So that's how it all started. It wasn't Bremerton wants to come take your sales tax and so we want sewer. It was like, hey, we could benefit and you could benefit if we send sewer to Belfair. And initially, we were not a fan of the idea. Like, we didn't like it. We're not used to sending our wastewater to someone else to treat it. That's not our business. We don't typically do that. But in this case,
Would you build your own sewer?
well, we might. That might happen, right?
Would you
So,
like to lease this one?
what's that?
Would you like to lease this sewer system?
Well, if we are sold service, that's basically what we're doing. Like, there will be a capital.
Bremerton take over the sewer system, and then you can charge them.
Wow, no, that's never been discussed. That's a whole new wrinkle on an issue that's got too many wrinkles already. Like this issue has a lot of tentacles. There's lots of concerns. There's lots of uncertainty. There's lots of people who don't want it, right? I get that. But I'm not sure that it's clear what the real benefit of serving Bremerton is. And we have to make it clear. And we haven't done that yet. Like, we're just getting to the point. Basically, what's happened is we had an ILA with Mason County for quite a number of years, from 2017 till the end of 2024. We kept extending it. It was an agreement to keep working together. I think Commissioner Netherland signed the original ILA for sewer, right? So
That's what is an ILA.
an interlocal agreement. So we have an agreement with Mason County, and we don't have it anymore because it just expired, and we've let it lapse, which I think is okay because it wasn't really helping us move forward, quite honestly. So, I just lost my train of thought. ILA, yeah, you screwed me up. Anyway, so where we're at right now is we've made a request for service because we've been talking, like staff have been talking about this ad nauseum for years. And we're trying to figure out if there's a solution that is good for Belfair, good for the Mason County sewer utility, and good for Bremerton. We don't want to follow in the footsteps of this sewer plan that happened here in Belfair. I don't want to go overbuild a treatment plant and then not have enough customers to make it run properly or to fund it. Like, that's not good for Bremerton. It's not good for anybody. And this community has experienced it, right? Like, in spades, you guys have experienced that poor planning. You're kind of a victim of that poor planning. So is it good for Bremerton to send wastewater to the Belfair wastewater treatment plant? I think there's a good chance it is good for Mason County and Belfair for us to do that. But we have to figure out what the investment is. The request, so hey, if you give us $11 million, then we'll talk. Well, it's going to be a business decision. Like, it is going to be a straight up business decision as to whether it is good for Bremerton and good for Mason County to make this connection. If it's not a good business decision for Bremerton, I will be advocating to walk away from it. And if it's not a good business decision for Mason County, I'm sure there's at least one commissioner that's going to advocate for walking away from it, right? Like, it's not going to be a good idea. But we're talking about it and trying to figure out if it's a benefit or not. And we haven't gotten past the point of, hey, will you serve us? So the first question is, do we think it's a good business decision, and do we want to move forward together? And we're trying to get to that point. And if we aren't going to, that is 100% okay. That is okay with me. If it's a bad decision and it's a bad idea, then let's not do it, right? But there are some things that have happened over the years. Like, there's $3 million that are sitting with the state, with Commerce, to come in to pay for design work to make some of the improvements that we've talked about, you know, that the letter from Ecology that we're talking about. There's improvements that are required for the existing plant. The design of that is going to cost money. There's $1.4 million sitting in a grant that has not been executed yet because it's in Bremerton's name, and we will not execute that grant until we know that there's a commitment for service. Like, I'm not going to go take $3 million because 1.6 of that money, $1.6 million, is for design of infrastructure to get the flow from Bremerton to Mason County. I'm not going to spend any of that money if there's not some certainty that we're going to get service. Like, I'm not going to take that grant money from the state, right? We'll just have to pay it back. And we might have to pay your portion back if you spend it, and then we don't get service. So that is just a non-starter for us. And what we're trying to do is get everyone around the table to talk about the issues. And there are lots of concerns. I know there's tribal concerns. There's tribal property that could be served in this area. They have an interest in it. Some of them don't want service, to be provided. So there's kind of a push-pull there. There's the whole sales tax issue. I don't know how to answer the sales tax issue. I'm an engineer. I design projects and I build them, right? I am not in charge of the economic development for Belfair or for Bremerton. I do know that in our discussions, Amazon is kind of a great leveler for sales tax. So everything that people are buying that they aren't buying at a box store now, that they're getting from Amazon, that sales tax is now coming into your community. So for us, we've actually seen, our sales tax, even through the pandemic, our sales tax was okay in Bremerton. So I don't know if that's the answer. I do know that there's an element of leveling of sales tax revenue from Amazon and from ordering online. So that's a real thing. Will businesses come in that'll run Bremerton or Belfair businesses out of business? I would hope not, but I can't guarantee that's not going to happen. Our zoning allows kind of a broad, type of business to come in, and we're not going to restrict the zoning in the area. So I know that the intent is for manufacturing and industrial facilities, but there could be a big gas station at the intersection of Lake Flora Road. I do not know. Maybe there won't be. But if there is that good for Belfair? I guess I would ask you guys that question. I think you think it's not a good thing, which I understand. I understand. But that's in the future, and there's not going to be a future if we can't figure out how to get service for sewer into that area. And I guarantee you, we'll figure it out. There's only so much more effort and energy we can put into this discussion with Mason County. Quite honestly, it's kind of, we've got to get off the dime, and we need a clear answer. For me, when somebody comes in to Bremerton and requests sewer service, we give them what's called a conditional availability letter. And that tells you everything you need to know to get service from Bremerton. What main extensions you'll need, what your fees are going to be, if you got to build a pump station. We have capacity and we'll serve you. And we don't say no very often, right? Like, we're a utility. From my perspective as a utility, my job is to sell service and utilize the investment that we have in our facilities. That's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know if that's what Mason County is supposed to do, right? Like, this system started out on the wrong foot, like 100%, and it's still limping on one foot, kind of. So how do you want to fix the problem of flow rate and revenue and the business decision of making sure that the Belfair Sewer is adequate? Does it help to have Bremerton come in and pay a surcharge and an outside county rate? Well, I would think that surcharge that we pay, softens up the cost for the residents in the area that need to connect. And I know a lot of people don't want to connect to sewer. I'm on a septic system. I'm out in the woods in Seabeck. I don't have sewer coming to my house. I don't even have a water pipe out there other than my well, which scares me a little bit right now. So I think there could be a benefit to it and a benefit to ratepayers. But we haven't done that math yet because we're still trying, and maybe that's the next thing to do. Like, I just talked to Loretta Swanson, the Public Works Director for Mason County. I talked to her this morning, and it's like, what do we do with this next meeting to have a meaningful discussion that helps move us forward somehow? Because there's a lot of emotional concern about things, which I understand. Like I'm not looking to ruin anybody's community, trust me. But we need to figure out how we move forward in a positive way, or we need to decide to stop moving forward. Like, straight up, that's really kind of what needs to happen. I'm hopeful that a regional solution helps everybody. Like, really, that's why Bremerton is involved in this. We don't want to have the same mistake and have to go build a facility and then have no flow go to it for some number of years, right? I learned a lot from the poor planning and the mistakes that happened here with this sewer. And I'm not trying to throw mud on anybody or malign anybody, but everyone here, I think, knows that it hasn't been a great success story because of the cost and the struggles with ecology permitting and making it operate properly. It's been a struggle. I feel sorry for the Mason County commissioners that have had to try to figure out how to make this utility function financially and physically since it's been constructed, basically. Like, this, you don't understand when they say you've been subsidizing the utility. We never do that. Like, nobody does that, right? The utility is supposed to pay for the utility. If you're using general fund money or REIT money to subsidize a utility, that's like the last thing you want to do. And they have done it out of necessity. And I don't think there's any other choice. Maybe I'm talking too much about Mason County and how we've managed this, but it's not an easy problem. So hopefully we can move forward in a way that Bremerton is served, revenue comes in to this utility, it operates properly. Whatever goes in Bremerton isn't driving Belfair into the ground. Like, nobody wants that. That's not our intent whatsoever. Like, this isn't like a hostile takeover. We don't want to see businesses go out of business. Like, I would feel terrible if that was a result of that. But there's a life cycle of business. There's a life cycle of everything. So things have to evolve, right? So I can't predict the economic future of Belfair based on whether or not this area that we're proposing to get service is served. So I can get in the nuts and bolts of where it's going to go and how much flow and all that sort of stuff. But I think what we really care about is this a good idea or not, right? And we're still trying to figure that out, quite honestly. So I'm going to go here because I know she's going to support me.
I'm just going to ask a kind of a generic question.
Yeah.
Aren't interlocal agreements pretty common? I mean, it's not unusual for,
Yes, they're relatively common. We don't have hundreds of them at the city, but when we have an agreement, like if we're going to do something collaboratively with the county or with the Port of Bremerton, then we'll do an interlocal agreement to kind of craft what we're working on together.
like police service
Yeah.
and fire departments.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it happens. It's not unusual
Yeah.
for the different entities to help each other out in the ways that they can.
I think he was next, and then I'll come to you. Okay.
My question was just simple. We've talked about, it seems like there's an option A and B here, right? That option A is for Bremerton to hook into Mason County. B, I think I heard you say build your own.
There's an option C.
What is, that was my question.
Okay, so option C, we have a treatment plant. Bremerton has a big treatment. You probably smell it every time you go to Silverdale. Hopefully not. We have a treatment plant that has capacity, but we would be pumping sewage miles to get it there. And when you pump sewage, especially at the beginning of system, like establishing a wastewater system down at the south, it's like the furthest property away from our treatment plant. Yeah, I think that's fair. That sewage is going to be old. It's going to be anaerobic. It's going to have H2S, and it's going to create sulfuric acid, and it's going to have odors, and we're going to have to do secondary treatment for odors, and the pumps are going to barely run for the first number of months and years. So we have a solution that we can pump to a plant. Like, we can pivot to that. And actually, in our evaluation that we just recently did, that looks like the cheapest alternative from a pure capital investment, like the front end capital that you have to spend to get that treatment, or collection and conveyance system to the plant. It was like $60 or $70 million. Still a lot of money. But you can't phase that sizing. When you build a pump station, that wet well is the same size. That force main is going to be the size you want 50 years from now. And if you only need really like a 4-inch pipe to pump that flow, and you just put in an 8-inch for the 50-year flow, then you just increase the problem with the age of the sewage that's going to our plant. So there are other issues at our plant, like and I'm really going to go down that rabbit hole here. So there's a new requirement from ecology called the Nutrient General Permit. And what it does is it limits the nitrogen discharge from wastewater treatment plants. Every single plant just about that discharges to the Puget Sound, in Puget Sound, is going to have a restriction on their nitrogen discharge. For Bremerton, that looks like, if they hold us to what they're talking about, that looks like a $200 million capital and an O&M improvement. That's significant. You think you have high rates? Wait till we do that, unless the state's going to come in with a lot of grant money. So one of the nice things about going to the Belfair treatment plant is that flow will go to a plant that doesn't increase our need to do treatment for nitrogen at our plant. Like, there's a benefit there. There's a financial benefit to Bremerton. Would it be okay if this flow does go to the city and go to that plant? Yeah, we're going to be okay. We'll figure it out, right? But it'd be kind of nice not to increase our nitrogen load more than we need to, with this solution. So, there's a lot to this. There's other, concerns. I think I've hit on the big ones. I'm happy to take more questions. How about that?
So, back in.
Oh, hang on. He was next. Go ahead.
They made a point about that Mason County reached out to Port of Bremerton, but the reason they reached out to Port of Bremerton was because they had flow.
Yes, 100%. That's right.
And then, secondly, no one discussed the possibility of the city of Bremerton just creating its own MBR plant, like Fort Gamble, 100,000 gallons per day.
We have done that.
5 million.
That was our original plan. That was our original
Why
plan.
don't you do it? And
Because we will have the exact same problem that you guys have had. It won't have enough flow initially. You'll have to do some interim solution. You'll have some kind of storage, pump to tankers, on-site septic system interim solution that this plant didn't have, and it probably needed, right?
Kubota could just have a package plant. It would,
I know, but you still have to have enough flow to make it work right. And when we start that plant, you have to have a plant and a collection system before you can have the development to feed it. So I'm going to build a plant first, and I'm going to have zero flow to start with, right? I'm going to have zero. Like, that was the nice thing about the Port of Bremerton. And then the other thing about the Port of Bremerton is they're in our service area. So Mason County can't just come say, hey, I'm going to serve you, Port of Bremerton. They're in the city limits. They're in the city of Bremerton service area. And honestly, I'm looking at that flow as seed flow if I have to do an MBR plant up north. So we were not excited about just send the Port of Bremerton to solve Mason County's problem. It's kind of this relationship in reverse a little bit, I guess. And if we have to build a plant up there, I absolutely want that Port of Bremerton flow going to my MBR plant so that it functions properly right off the bat. Does that make sense? So there's a lot to this issue. It's not just Bremerton wants sewer. If this does not work out, if it doesn't work out, if it's bad for Mason County, if it's too expensive for Bremerton, if we just can't figure it out, well, there's other options. There are other options.
will you make a point that the,
It's a lot. I know it's a lot, right?
So with like in 2017, when Mason County came to Bremerton, and you guys really didn't want anything to do with it, why in 2025 should we return that favor and have something to do with it?
Well,
And secondly,
hang on, we did want something to do with you guys in 2017. We didn't want just Port of Bremerton flow to go to Mason County, but we were interested in working on how to send the south end of the Puget Sound Industrial Center. Once that started the conversation and got our minds working, in 2017 we executed, or 2018, an ILA with Mason County to provide service for this other exhibit. Like, I handed these out. This is the area that we want to serve. This is Highway 3, Lake Flora Road. We absolutely were interested in working, and we have been since 2017, right? So we weren't interested in just sending the cream to Mason County with that flow from Port of Bremerton, but we were definitely interested in working on a wastewater solution back then.
so the other thing that I saw too, and I don't remember if it was 60 million or 90 million that it's gonna cost you to go from the port down to Gorst. So how is that beneficial to us to give you something for almost nothing? Because it's gonna, just to get to Gorst, that's what I think that I read in the reports from the state.
Yeah, well, you read that in it was a technical memo that our consultant put together to evaluate how we're going to provide service to the Puget Sound Industrial Center. And they looked at 3 alternatives, and one of them was that alternative. And it actually was the cheapest upfront alternative. And it doesn't benefit you at all. If we go spend $90 million or whatever it was, I think it was like 60 to 90.
That doesn't get you to Silverdale.
I don't need to get to Silverdale. I need to get to the wastewater treatment plant that's right as you come out of Gorst on the left by the dealerships in Bremerton. That's where our treatment plant is. Yeah. And we have pipe in Gorst. Like, I have pump stations and force mains. I really just need to get to Gorst. Once I get to Gorst, I can pump it to the plant. So it's even closer than the plant, but it's still like, if you've ever worked in the wastewater industry and seen the devastating effect of sulfuric acid on infrastructure for sewer, it's devastating. And so you have to think about those things when you send old, like aged out old wastewater from the far reaches of the south end of Bremerton to our plant. It would have an impact on our infrastructure.
So maybe the property shouldn't be developed. It's got too far to go.
I don't think that's for Mason County to decide, right? Go ahead.
Sounds like Mason County is the only way you should really go, because if you're gonna pump it all the way to Gorse, you're gonna cut up the road. It's already a nightmare to get to Belfair anyway, so you might as well just put a wall where the damn railroad thing is.
Well, we wouldn't be talking to Mason County right now if we didn't agree with you on some level. Like, we're having this conversation because we think it's the best idea right now.
20 years from now, if something goes wrong up there, are we gonna be holding the bag? Or you guys say, well, we're out?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I would be worried about that in reverse.
The way this thing was put together, I don't know if I wanna buy this car.
Well, I can tell you that the Department of Ecology sent us an email with that letter and the concerns about the plant and meeting permit. And I'm having a meeting with Department of Ecology on Monday, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to go to Mason County?" Like that's the flavor of the conversation that I'm getting from Department of Ecology right now.
Now you know how we feel.
It's not. I know it's not great. Like, I know it's not great. Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I got an engineering background. Let the engineers figure this out, not the emotions of the public, not the politicians. Let the engineers sit down and financially come up with a plan. Is it feasible? Can we make it work? Does it pay? Right now, that sewer system, and I was against the sewer when it did the planning because I couldn't feasibly see that thing paying for itself. It was not possible in my mind. And it's still not. And it's got, I read that ecology report. I mean, that sinkhole, that bothers the shit out of me.
I would change that just slightly. I'd say let the engineers and the finance managers figure it out.
It's a financial issue, an engineering issue, but let's get the politicians out. Stop the emotions.
That's
What I
caused
see here
this
is
problem.
emotions of people, and they don't resolve anything.
That's what caused this problem.
I just want to say, we're concerned about an over-engineered sewer system. But yet, when you talk to Pat Tarswell, we want to bring industry into our county, into this end. Okay, we're eventually gonna need that. Let's see maybe let's, like you said, let's work with Bremerton, but let's also use our minds and creativity, and let's see what we can bring into our county. You know, I worked in the Northeast Ohio. I saw steel mills, which I worked in, go down. I saw towns have to diversify. Akron made a comeback. A lot of places became tourist destinations. You know, why instead of pointing fingers at everybody, let's put our heads together. Let's get creative and make this, we already have our destination. We have lovely Hood Canal. We have lovely mountains. Fishing, hunting. You know, I'm saying the same thing out there in McClary and all those deprived areas that were logging communities. Let's revitalize. Let's advertise what we have. Let's bring people here. Let's be a destination, and that will build our grocery stores. We cannot stop gas stations and malls from surrounding us. We are not, I'm from Allen. I love my little area, believe me. But we also need to bring industry. We need to bring taxes. We need to bring families who will work in our communities. But we gotta bring the industry here. Let's stop beating up on this guy taking away our jobs. Let's bring jobs here. Let's create.
Amen.
We have room to do things here. Let's get creative, everybody. I know we have creative minds. You know, let's bring industry to northern or southern Mason County. Let's embrace our area.
I just want to say I don't see this as like a Mason County, Kitsap County problem. I really don't. Like this whole area is going to grow and prosper together.
Is going to.
So and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it should be Mason County. Don't help kids. I don't know. Like I don't think like that. My job is to find solutions for planning and providing utilities to accommodate growth and maintain a system and operate systems properly, like, that's what I do, right? Like, I don't control zoning. I don't have any control over that. But I'm hopeful that these conversations that we're having, because it's been going on for years now, and I've been involved in it from day one, basically. It's a little exhausting, quite honestly, right? It's a lot. But I'm hopeful that it's going to be successful somehow, and that we can actually come together and figure out a solution that benefits I don't want to do this if it doesn't benefit Mason County, right? But the question is, how much do you need, right? Like, if you're going to over ask, we call utilities enterprise funds. That means they're self-supporting, right? I'm sorry, I'll come to you, okay? Self-supporting means that they are financially viable on their own, right? And this facility down here hasn't been. And I think it would be great if somehow this helped that dynamic. So go ahead.
Well, I haven't lived here a long time, but I was here last year, and I feel like I'm at the same meeting.
With me?
No,
Oh.
I was just here, I just feel like we're still having the same conversation.
Me
I wanna
too.
know, what's the goal?
Yeah.
What are the objectives?
Yeah.
Who's in charge of them? Let's get together, and once a year doesn't cut it. Once a year doesn't cut it.
Yeah, I agree.
So who's gonna do that? Where's the whiteboard, so we can have the goal, and set the objectives, and have people volunteer, and get together, because once a year isn't cutting it.
100%.
So does that?
So let's do it now. What are we waiting for? Let's do it
From an
tonight.
engineer's perspective,
Let's do it tonight.
Well, hell, when are we gonna do it? Next year?
15 minutes.
Well, we have a,
We wait till next year?
You can raise the contract so we can get it
the
signed.
basic question, where are we on engineering to be able to answer those questions? So in order to let the engineer and the finance managers do their job, and I'm assuming that we had this conversation a year ago, is what you were saying, have we moved forward on the engineering? Do we know that for that mile or whatever it's gonna be, it only looks like a mile or two?
well, that's not even the right, that was like the original, that's not
No, I
even the
get
right
it, but
thing, yeah.
it's not that.
So let me tell you this. So the $3 million grant, in order to get that grant, we had to come up with what the infrastructure requirement was gonna be for Bremerton. And Mason County had to identify what capital projects they need to kind of upgrade and get. So we have like a 10% concept with costs. We know how many pump stations, we know flow rates, we know pipes and pipe sizes and lengths. We have a real rough order of magnitude for capital costs in Bremerton's, and then Mason County did the same thing for some collection system upgrades or some pipes that are too small and bottlenecks, and then the stuff they need to do at the plant. So they came up with 1.4 million, and we came up with 1.6, and there's $3 million Commerce is waiting for me to let them know that we have an agreement with Mason County that like obligates service, so that we don't go spend the money for nothing, right? Like, it's important that there's a commitment to provide service. The money is to promote wastewater service in the Puget Sound Industrial Center to be sent to Mason County. That's fundamentally what that money's for. So
it sounds like what you described as a catch-22. You don't have the money to do the engineering, or you're not unwilling to?
I have the money to do the engineering. I don't have the commitment yet.
But,
And,
that's what I'm saying.
but the piece that's missing financially, I guess I didn't finish. Let me finish with this. The piece that is missing financially is GFCs, rates, 50% surcharge. What should a rate be? What should Bremerton's investment in the existing plant be? We haven't figured that out. So it's hard for commissioners, and engineers to really negotiate. Like, I think that's the next step probably, is like we need to figure out, get closer to the center of the target on what the dollars are going to be, not for what we got to pay to build something and design something, but what the business management of the utility is going to look like financially for both utilities. And that's a harder thing, and we haven't. Honestly, it's probably something that we need to do.
Because it sounds like in your earlier comment where you said in the city of Bremerton, somebody wants service, they send a letter, I want service, you send them back a letter saying, your service is gonna cost you this, I wanna develop this piece of land, I go to Bremerton, I say, I want this. So essentially Bremerton's gone to Mason County saying, I want this.
We requested
On
service.
Mason County,
I'd love a conditional availability letter that tells me what I have to do, that's clear, that defines the impact to Bremerton. But it's a hard thing to expect the commissioners just to provide that, right? Like, that's why we're talking, because I've never, let me say this too. I have never done this before. I've never negotiated a wholesale wastewater treatment contract with another entity for the city of Bremerton. Never done it. But I'm really good at it. No, I could be terrible at it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm any good at it. It's just taking so long. Something's wrong with our approach somehow, but I'm hopeful that we can break it loose. So.
it can't be the first time it's done.
We need a sticker sheet, show us what's going on.
A sticker sheet.
Instead of the meeting and saying, we think we need to see the numbers, like you say.
I think I do too. I think Key does too.
See the numbers, it'll be.
Hang on a second. There's a gentleman back here who's got his hand up.
I heard a number tonight that if this goes through, you would not have to pay $70 million to put in your own infrastructure. The question is, how would the city of Bremerton compensate Mason County for saving you that much money? Is that part of the surcharge you're talking about?
That's not the math. That's not like, hey, you're saving 70 million, so I can charge you 69. That's not the math. We will.
Only 30.
Yeah.
It's only
I'm applying the
50%.
full thing, but
That is not. So if what would have to happen is Mason County will have to identify the value of their infrastructure, and we'll be buying into some share of that somehow. And we'll be, there will be rates that have, so O&M rates, right? Every month, anybody who's hooked to it is going to pay money, and they're going to pay Bremerton, and then Bremerton's going to carve off some amount of that and send it to Mason County. That's how I see that working. So, but I know the numbers are big, and I understand why that sounds reasonable. If that is the math that we're going to use to come together, it's not going to work. That just won't work. Yeah.
When you need a bathroom, it's really important to have
100%.
So one more time on the math, so we need that conditional letter, so Mason County needs to come back and say, we propose this much money before you can engineer it to understand, to get the details.
I can engineer it right now. I could go take that grant and I could go design infrastructure, and I could have a set of plans and a set of specs, and I could be ready to bid a contract in about a year. I could do it right now.
Wouldn't that show us that Bremerton's
No,
willing to
but I've just taken
invest?
grant money from the state to do that, and then when Mason County decides not to serve us, I've just spent money did the bridge to nowhere, right?
You got 2 commissioners in your pocket.
I do not have 2 commissioners in my pocket. No, I do not.
Jack,
They don't wanna pay the money
his turn.
in the other part of Belfair, right? I mean, part of Mason County. They don't wanna pay the money. So they're gonna vote that this happens, so they don't have to make that payment anymore.
Actually, there's a gentleman who has his hand up, and I don't think he said anything yet, and then I'll come back to you.
I'm sure I wouldn't say
You lied.
Still let you speak, but to go back to the engineering time, you could do the engineering, you do the engineering and get a plan, and then if Mason County doesn't follow through on it, you spend that money, and it's just.
1.6 million for nothing.
Okay.
And the state will want it back. And I'm not gonna put Bremerton, that's a risk for Bremerton. I'm not gonna put our city at risk financially to spend money unnecessarily. We need a commitment, we need an agreement, right?
I understand,
Yeah.
been wrestling the engineering aspects of this county for 15, 18 years. And we never quite get to the point where there's enough information to really make an informed decision. And it sounds to me like you can't do the engineering because you've got no guarantee that that money's ever gonna be spent right. So you've got a small concept, you're never gonna get to maturation unless you get commitment from Mason County.
Yes, we put in the mayor wrote a letter requesting a 20-year service commitment for 160,000 gallons a day at the end of that 20, it's gonna grow over years, right? We would have loved a response back that said, here's the conditions to provide that service. We're committed to serving Bremerton, but this is what we have to sort out, and these are the conditions. We did not get that letter. That is not what we got. We got, I think we got an invitation to a meeting so we could actually get around the table, and it's kind of like this. Like, it was a good meeting, I think, to kind of dispel some misunderstanding and some, misconceptions, but that doesn't mean we sorted it all out and everyone agrees and it's all rosy. But we got some things out on the table and we talked about some things. I think it was healthy. But yeah, like, we're gonna have another meeting and hopefully we get to that financial piece and it either makes sense or it doesn't. And then there's some sort of a clear decision about whether Bremerton will get service from Mason County. If Mason County wrote a letter tomorrow that says, we're not gonna serve you, hey, okay, no hard feelings. I'm gonna go work on a solution that I know will work, right? And I'm gonna go start looking for funding, and I'm gonna go start designing a pump station that pumps a different direction, and I'm gonna size pipes, and we'll get loans, or we'll wait for a developer to come in who's got a deep pocket that can pay for improvements, and that's how it will go, right? No hard feelings, Mason County. Like, if it doesn't work out, no hard feelings. But at some point, we need to just fish or cut bait, right? Like, you got to make a decision and move forward.
One more question, the $3 million in what year dollars?
I think it was awarded in 23, 24.
2 years behind in the $3 million, so.
Yeah, I think they were good estimates. I think we could probably accomplish what we need to do with that amount still.
Okay, one more, I know you're the Bremerton engineer, but about the Mason County system, how far out does it go? Does anybody know? I mean, I heard grapefruit earlier, does it seriously go as far as grapefruit? Because I heard,
Like two different systems, there's a north
Yeah.
bay system and then there's the Belfair. They are not connected.
thank you.
North Bay is Allen, right?
Right.
'Cause-
Allen, and it goes to, barely into Grapeview.
Okay.
It goes down
We
the
don't
Grapeview
allow-
Loop Road 2 miles,
Okay, that makes sense. It's just-
1 mile.
We got 5 minutes, and then I am running.
You have like 2 minutes, so I can do a close.
Oh, okay, we got 2 minutes.
Okay.
No, this first, and then I'll come back to you.
I guess I'm still a little confused. If you're willing to spend $70 million on your own thing, why would you not be willing to spend, not the full $70 million, but spend something to compensate Mason County for that?
I don't know. We'd have to talk. I think, I don't know if I can convince you why we won't do that, but we won't do that. That's not how the math is gonna work. Like, we're gonna evaluate what the actual cost is. There might be a phased solution if we can make a fit. Like, one solution could be that the Port of Bremerton, like, I've been talking to the Port of Bremerton just like this, just so you know, it's not a big secret. Like, we talked to the port about the north end of the Puget Sound Industrial Center. We wanna collaborate on an MBR facility or a solution that provides sewer service for the north end of the Puget Sound. This isn't the whole Puget Sound Industrial Center we're talking about. This is only the south end that we're talking about sending to Mason County. So for that north end, if they have a lagoon and they sell that to the city of Bremerton, and I can pump some low flow amount to that lagoon and still provide treatment, and I don't have to go all the way to our plant, if that works, that could be an interim solution. Like, there are other phased approaches. Now, that's not a very robust solution because they don't have a lot of capacity left. But I've also gone to look at other small package MBR facilities with the Port of Bremerton in Bonnie Lake, where for $5 or $6 million, you can get, like a 60 to 80,000 gallon per day MBR facility. So it's not like we would have to necessarily spend $70 million or $90 million right up front. That's like the full build out cost for the improvements to provide the full service for the Puget Sound Industrial Center. And I don't know when that's gonna happen. The Port of Bremerton's lagoon system has been there for like 50 years, right? And it's still not at capacity. The Belfair treatment plant, how long is it since 2009? So 13 years. It's nowhere near full capacity, right? Like, it's sort of like you wanna phase your way into it, like plan for 20 years, but that's not necessarily full build out and full capacity for the whole system. And you won't have that sunk cost right away.
Jack.
I guess if I could summarize the key points I've heard tonight.
Did I screw up?
Yes?
Hang on. I told him you go next, and I'll come back to you.
Sorry.
So I'd like to point out there's a reason the Port of Allen and North Mason Chamber of Commerce are against this. And I would like to leave some time for, and I've been trying to get heard, for Randy Netherland, because it's his district, to have some rebuttal to all this. I really think it was offensive that he never got invited to have rebuttal.
Can I just answer that?
Sure.
Randy was here at our June meeting and we did discuss these things. And that's the
I
reason
haven't
why,
heard Randy talking.
no, you weren't here in June. But he did talk about this, which led to us inviting Ned and Pat. So,
Thanks, Randy.
thank you very much. I do believe that there is a rule about two commissioners being at the same meeting discussing, county.
Quorum.
Yes, and we do not, at the North Mason Community Voice, do not want to be responsible for either one of our commissioners getting in trouble.
I don't see Pat here now.
He's right there.